I'm going to be doing a little bit of myth busting and talking to you about carbohydrates. So a lot of people tend to think that carbs are the devil and that we should cut them out in order to lose weight or stay healthy. And I'm going to explain to you that this is not necessarily the case. So first of all, it's important to understand that there are different types of carbohydrates. So we have simple carbohydrates on one side of the spectrum, and then we also have complex carbohydrates. So simple carbohydrates are what you would typically tend to indulge in on the weekend, so things like cookies, cakes, your biscuits, all that kind of thing. And then complex carbohydrates are what you would typically find in your whole grains like rice and oats, for example, barley, and also in pulses as well, so like our beans and lentils. So those are your whole grain varieties and complex carbohydrates. And the difference between the two is the rate of which we get them absorbed in our bloodstream. So whenever we eat anything that's high in refined sugars or simple carbohydrates, we have an organ that's part of our digestive system, and this is called the pancreas. And the pancreas releases a hormone called insulin. And the purpose of insulin is to take sugar from our bloodstream and pump it into the body's cells to utilize for energy. So whenever we eat anything that's high in these simple sugars, which have a very simple sugar chain in terms of their molecular structure, what happens is we get a real peak in our blood sugar levels, and then we get high insulin. And then as soon as we eat that, and then the sugar gets pumped into the bloodstream and the cells for energy, that's when we get this trough. And this is referred to as the blood sugar roller coaster. So we go up here, and then we go down here. And when we're down here, when we have low blood sugar, we start to feel anxious, tired, nervous, jittery, irritable. And what do we want again? We want another cereal bar or another chocolate bar just to feel better and to feel like we're energized again. And this is why it's really important to make sure we stabilize our blood sugar levels by eating the complex type of carbohydrates. Because if we're eating complex carbohydrates, we have the presence of fiber and a much longer structure of sugars that can actually be digested much more slower into the bloodstream. So this is why it's important to make sure we're having beans and lentils and brown rice and whole grains rather than, say, the simple types like white rice or white breads. So obviously that extends all the way to having those cookies and donuts as well. But when it comes to carbs being the devil, obviously if we're opting for simple sugars all the time, we are triggering insulin. And insulin is also a fat storage hormone, so it can actually trigger the deposits of fat in the body. So we want to make sure that we're opting for complex varieties, because the complex varieties have the benefits of fiber, which keeps our digestive system healthy, and it also can help with serotonin production. So carbohydrates play a large role in helping with our serotonin production. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that helps us to feel happy, and it regulates our mood. So I think it's really important to make sure we understand carbohydrates, and as long as we're being mindful of how much we're eating when it comes to simple sugars, there's nothing wrong with having, say, a cake every once in a while, but I think it's just being mindful of how much you do that, and being aware of what you're building your plate around on a day-to-day basis, and making sure you have those complex carbohydrates as much as possible in place of those simple sugars.